Even after all these years, with countless suspects questioned, forensic techniques applied, and theories debated, the identity of Elizabeth Short's killer remains a mystery. Who was the Black Dahlia, and who committed the most infamous murder in Los Angeles history? The answer may never be known, but the shadow of her story will haunt the city forever. Decades after Elizabeth Short's tragic death, law enforcement, researchers, and true crime enthusiasts have continued to seek closure in the Black Dahlia case. Despite significant advances in forensic science and investigative techniques, the case remains officially unsolved, cementing its place as one of the most notorious mysteries in American history. Case closure attempts. Over the years, multiple attempts were made to close the investigation. Police departments and independent researchers revisited archived evidence, including photographs, witness statements, and letters. Cold case units re-examined leads using modern techniques such as DNA analysis, fingerprint comparison, and digital reconstruction of crime scenes. In the 1990s and early 2000s, investigative teams sought to apply modern profiling methods to the case. Criminal psychologists analyzed Elizabeth's murder for patterns indicative of a serial offender. They evaluated the precision of the mutilation, the arrangement of the body, and other crime scene details to develop behavioral profiles. These profiles suggested that the perpetrator was meticulous, knowledgeable about anatomy, and capable of planning violent acts with precision. Despite these efforts, no definitive suspect emerged. Physical evidence from 1947 had deteriorated over time, letters remained inconclusive, and most witnesses had either passed away or their recollections had faded. The challenges of solving a decades-old murder were compounded by the limited forensic technology available at the time of the crime. Modern theories and reevaluations. Researchers and true crime historians continue to propose new theories about the Black Dahlia murder. Some suggest that the crime may have been committed by a transient individual who knew Elizabeth only briefly but possessed the skill and composure necessary to execute the act. Others propose connections to serial offenders operating in Los Angeles during the 1940s, citing similarities. Decades after Elizabeth Short's murder, the Black Dahlia case continued to captivate both investigators and the public. While the original investigation in 1947 produced no arrests, researchers and true crime enthusiasts have revisited the case repeatedly, proposing new suspects, reevaluating old leads, and analyzing the crime using modern techniques. The enduring mystery has made the case an archetype of unsolved crime, demonstrating the challenges of investigating meticulously planned violence in an era with limited forensic capabilities. Revisiting original suspects. The original suspects, Mark Hansen, Leslie Dillon, and George Hodel, remained central figures in retrospective analyses. Investigators scrutinized their connections to Elizabeth and their behavior surrounding the time of her death. Mark Hansen continued to draw attention due to his proximity and social ties. Researchers re-examined his statements, business records, and social interactions. Though no new physical evidence emerged, analysts considered whether he could have had indirect influence or knowledge of Elizabeth's last movements. Leslie Dillon, the bellboy, remained a fascinating figure because of his correspondence with the police. Letters he sent included anatomical knowledge that mirrored aspects of the crime. Modern researchers debated whether he was merely an obsessive individual or had actual involvement. Behavioral analyses suggested he may have had psychological tendencies aligning with violent or sadistic behavior, but no concrete proof linked him to the murder. George Hodel, decades later, became a focal point of renewed investigations. Evidence surfaced suggesting he may have had both the medical knowledge and opportunity to commit the crime. Investigators also considered his potential involvement in other unsolved murders, creating a broader profile of a possible serial offender. However, no legal action could be pursued, leaving Hodel officially uncharged. Beyond these three are the investigation into Elizabeth Short's murder, already one of the largest and most complex in Los Angeles history, continued to expand as detectives examined every angle of her life. Each lead was scrutinized, from casual acquaintances to intimate partners, in an effort to identify the individual responsible for such a meticulous and brutal crime. Despite extensive interviews and evidence gathering, the investigation faced significant obstacles, both from the limitations of the era's forensic science and from the complexity of Elizabeth's social world. Elizabeth's personal life offered numerous threads to follow. She had lived in various locations across Los Angeles, often moving between friends' apartments and temporary residences. Her ambition to become an actress drew her into Hollywood's nightlife and social circles, which included club owners, actors, aspiring performers, and everyday citizens. While her charisma and beauty opened doors, it also exposed her to individuals with questionable intentions. Investigators considered whether the killer had been someone she knew personally or a stranger who had observed her patterns over time. Detailed suspect analysis. Mark Hansen, the nightclub owner, remained a figure of interest. He had provided Elizabeth with opportunities to model and work at his club, and some witnesses placed her in his establishment frequently. Police interrogated him multiple times, seeking inconsistencies in his accounts and checking for any evidence tying him to Elizabeth's last movements. Hansen maintained his innocence, and despite his proximity to Elizabeth, investigators found no conclusive proof linking him to the murder. Leslie Dillon, the bellboy, became increasingly suspicious because of his extensive correspondence with the police. Dillon claimed knowledge of the crime that was unsettlingly precise. Investigators considered whether he had prior knowledge or involvement, but his alibi and lack of physical evidence prevented charge. After months of relentless investigation, the Los Angeles Police Department faced a chilling reality. Despite exhaustive efforts, Elizabeth Short's murder remained unsolved. Detectives had questioned dozens of witnesses, analyzed every scrap of evidence, and pursued countless leads, yet the trail went cold. The sheer meticulousness of the crime, combined with the lack of forensic technology available in 1947, left investigators frustrated and the public increasingly obsessed. Elizabeth's disappearance and the discovery of her mutilated body had already sent shockwaves through the city. Los Angeles, a place often idealized for its glamorous Hollywood lifestyle, was suddenly cast in a grim light. Residents of neighborhoods like Leimert Park were wary, while aspiring actresses and young women in the city faced heightened fears about personal safety. The Black Dahlia case had transformed from a local tragedy into a symbol of urban vulnerability, highlighting how quickly innocence and ambition could be met with unimaginable cruelty. Investigation aftermath. The early months following the murder saw detectives meticulously following up on all possible leads. They re-interviewed friends and acquaintances of Elizabeth, hoping to uncover inconsistencies or forgotten details. Hotel clerks, cab drivers, and nightclub staff were contacted repeatedly, and each scrap of testimony was examined for relevance. Every report, letter, or tip was logged, even if many ultimately proved to be hoaxes or dead ends. Authorities considered the possibility of multiple suspects or accomplices. The nature of the crime suggested careful planning, which raised questions. Could Elizabeth have been lured to the location by someone she trusted? Did the killer act alone, or was there collaboration? Despite extensive questioning, no definitive answer emerged. Technological limitations hindered the investigation. Fingerprinting, rudimentary at the time, yielded no matches. Blood analysis was minimal. After the shocking discovery of Elizabeth Short's body, the Los Angeles Police Department faced one of the most perplexing investigations in the city's history. Detectives worked tirelessly, retracing her final movements, questioning friends, acquaintances, and anyone who had contact with her in the days leading up to her disappearance. The sheer brutality and precision of the murder created enormous pressure on investigators. Despite exhaustive efforts, the case quickly became one of the most confounding in American true crime history. Elizabeth Short's life before her death was filled with ambition, charm, and restlessness. She had moved frequently, living with relatives, friends, and temporary residences across different neighborhoods in Los Angeles. Known for her striking beauty, dark hair, and captivating smile, Elizabeth drew attention wherever she went. Friends described her as vibrant, witty, and determined, yet her impulsive and sometimes reckless behavior left her vulnerable. She worked odd jobs, including waitressing, clerking, and modeling, while chasing her dream of stardom in Hollywood. Her nightlife and social circle exposed her to new opportunities, but also increased the risks she faced in the city. In the days leading up to January 9, 1947, Elizabeth was seen visiting friends, attending parties, and socializing at clubs. Witnesses recalled seeing her leave venues alone, walking through streets that would later be scrutinized by police for any potential clues. She carried herself with confidence, unaware that someone was observing her every move, plotting an unthinkable act that would end her life in the most horrific way. Following the discovery of her body on January 15th, the LAPD immediately launched a massive investigation. Officers scoured the vacant lot where she was found, searching for footprints, discarded items, or any sign of the perpetrator. Forensic capabilities were limited at the time, but detectives documented the scene meticulously. In January 1947, Los Angeles was a city of glittering lights and endless dreams. Hollywood shimmered with the promise of fame, while the streets buzzed with ambition, opportunity, and, sometimes, desperation. Amidst this vibrant yet treacherous city lived a young woman named Elizabeth Short. Born on July 29, 1924, in Boston, Massachusetts, Elizabeth had already endured a tumultuous childhood. Her parents divorced when she was very young, forcing her to live with various relatives and move between cities. Despite these hardships, Elizabeth nurtured dreams of becoming an actress, believing that Los Angeles held the key to her future. By her early 20s, Elizabeth had moved to Los Angeles, a city that promised glamour but often delivered heartbreak. She was strikingly beautiful, with dark hair, expressive eyes, and an aura that drew people in. Friends described her as vibrant, witty, and ambitious, though some noted a streak of recklessness. She worked odd jobs, waitressing, clerking, and modeling, always chasing her dream of stardom. She frequented Hollywood nightclubs, mingled with actors and aspiring performers, and was determined to make a name for herself in the world of entertainment. On the night of January 9, 1947, Elizabeth was last seen alive. In the days leading up to her disappearance, she had been visiting friends, attending parties, and moving between social circles. Her charm and beauty made her memorable, yet her transient lifestyle meant that no one could precisely track her movements. The city had no idea that within a few days, Elizabeth's life would end in one of the most shocking and gruesome murders in American history. The morning of January 15, 1947, brought horror to the streets of Los Angeles. A local resident named Betty Berzinger was walking through a quiet area in Leimert Park when she noticed something strange near a vacant lot. Initially, she thought it was a discarded mannequin. But as she drew closer, the horrifying reality became seen.